How a decade of hard work turned the Blue Jays into a viable destination for the game's best players. Orlando, FLA. It has been more than 35 years since Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams movie was released in theaters, and yet the famous line of "if you build it, they will come" remains as relevant today as it was back then. The Blue Jays have been putting that theory to the test since President Mark Shapiro and General Manager Ross Atkins arrived at the end of 2015. Their stated mission was to assemble a sustainable winner and turn Toronto into a viable destination for the game's best players. To accomplish that, the front office embarked on an ambitious rebuild. The Jays built a new player development complex in Florida, and they spent hundreds of millions to renovate Rogers Center. Business operations were overhauled to introduce dynamic ticket prices and maximize revenue. A decade later, and the Jays are finally beginning to see positive results. After advancing to the World Series, the on-field success has started to align with the accomplishments away from it, which has made recruiting free agents a lot easier. Listening was a very important part to the ascension of this franchise, said agent Scott Boras, whose client Dylan Cease signed a $210 million US contract earlier this month. They listened to what players wanted in amenities, what players wanted in technology to help them improve, what players wanted and needed in routines, medically, and staffing. The facilities are, certainly in the player community, held as the best in class. Toronto turning into a preferred destination for the sports elite was one of the top storylines to come out of this year's winter meetings. After signing Cease and fellow righty Cody Ponce to multi-year deals, the Jays have continued to be aggressive in their search for a high-leverage reliever and another big bat. In each of the previous two off-seasons, the Jays weren't taken quite as seriously. They had plenty of resources and free agents were willing to engage, but most outside observers felt the Jays were being used as leverage instead of being a place where players actually wanted to go. So, what changed? A lot, actually. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. signed a 14-year deal, which proved the Jays' willingness to spend not only now, but well into the future. Highly respected veterans like Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett praised the clubhouse culture and the support staff that helped make it possible. Most important of all, they came within an inch or two of winning a championship. As we went through some of the down years, we poured money into resources that helped players improve, Atkins said when asked about the increased popularity of his team. As that started to bubble up into more wins, we poured money into free agents and investing in players more long-term. We do everything in our power to make sure we're helping players feel comfortable and transition smoothly, beyond just them as performers, but as people. That has turned us into an attractive destination. The reality is that the Jays' so-called inability to attract free agents was a bit overblown. Sure, there were high-profile misses on Shohei Ohtani and Juan Soto, but there were also the successful recruits of George Springer, Kevin Gausman, Jeff Hoffman, Scherzer, and many others in recent years. There will always be a handful of players, usually American, who want nothing to do with Canada for reasons most of us will never understand. There are others who would prefer to play for a team that spends its spring training in Arizona instead of Florida, or in a city that is closer to their family. There's nothing the Jays can do about that, but they can make a compelling case to those who are more open-minded by offering the most money alongside a bevy of amenities. Ownership group Rogers Communications made that possible by increasing its budget to the point where the Jays project to have the American League's highest payroll next season. While many might have believed such a commitment was possible, few expected it to happen. At least, not at the current level. We knew the upside of the market because Toronto is a world-class city, but I don't think any of us thought payroll would go that high, a former Jays employee under a different front office regime said. Top 10, yes. Spending like the Dodgers, Mets, and Yankees. That's not the Rogers I worked for. Maybe not, but then again Rogers has a newfound devotion to athletics. The company that used to own just the Jays has since secured a monopoly in Toronto's professional sports scene. In addition to the Jays, it has taken control of the Maple Leafs, Raptors, and Toronto FC. Outside of the Dodgers, and perhaps the Mets' Steve Cohen, there isn't a more wealthy ownership group in baseball, and personnel from across the league have taken notice. There has been a shift, Jays manager John Schneider said. I feel like in years past, with some high-profile players, it's been a selling to them, whereas now I think players know what they're getting into. It's a slow drip. I remember telling guys 3 years ago how cool our resources are. You start to sound like a broken record. When guys start to get into town and see it, they kind of have an oh wow moment. That takes time to bleed into everything else. The current positivity surrounding the team comes at a good time. After upgrading the pitching staff, the Jays are still big game hunting and they could become the preferred landing spot for shortstop Bo Bichette or outfielder Kyle Tucker. The window of opportunity remains wide open for a team that has announced its intentions to become one of the sport's elite franchises, and based on how this offseason started, the Jays have every intention of making sure it doesn't get slammed shut anytime soon. With a bit of luck and a few more wise investments, these Jays are here to stay.